You know that feeling when you're finally hitting your stride, making progress, and then bam, the holidays hit you like a freight train. It's family chaos, year-end pressure, and everything's coming at you at once. It's like life saying, let's see how you handle this. But here's the thing. You can turn it into your advantage. Lean into the mess, find those green lights when everything feels red, and make this final stretch your strongest yet. We've got real stories from athlete tips and no BS advice to help you finish strong. So let's get after it.
All right. I'm looking forward to this episode.
Well, first of all,
my name is David Tucker. I am actually the co-host, not just the tech person.
That's right. So, hey, officially, welcome to Embers Rising. I'm Winnie J. I've got my favorite adventure buddy, business partner, in-house chef, my incredible husband, David Tucker. Yes, he's with us. It's good to have you, Dave.
Thank you for the intro. I like that.
Hey,
that's way better than the last one. Like, this is the guy that does the tech and the dishes.
Well, we're fired up that you're joining us today because we're diving into a powerful topic, and it's really how to find your next gear and keep the momentum strong as the holiday kicks in. I mean, let's be real. The final stretch of the year can be a pretty wild ride if you're not ready for it. And I think between work demands, family gatherings, and all the holiday chaos, it's easy to feel stretched very thin. But with the right mindset and a solid strategy, Dave and I have really learned a lot about how you can bring your heart into this. You can turn this season into your strongest and really finish at a top level win. Let's go after it. And before we go after it, though, I do have to say, Dave, we have to always thank you for hitting and pressing play today, because I know you guys have a lot of options out there and you're hanging with Dave and I, and we're so excited about that in the whole Embers Rising community. I know it's not easy to stay motivated also during this time of year, so I'm grateful that you're choosing to show up for yourself, and let's keep the fire burning as we head into the holiday season.
But I'm just a little bit confused here today, because when you said the episode was going to be about finding your next gear, I created a very long wish list of athletic gear that I wanted for for Christmas, right?
Yes!
You're like, finding your next gear for Christmas. I'm like, let's go.
When Dave hears gear, he's like, yeah. All right, gear. Oh, you got it. And I think that came from me because I'm a gear geek. I just love gear. I'm always testing things all the time. You can hit me up right now, and I can tell you what I'm testing right now. Let's dive into it, Dave. Listen, let's dive into some life updates. I am on a mission right now for shoes. The whole year, I have struggled with issues in my feet. And first I thought I'm like a blister prone person. And now I've managed the blisters. The problem is I have bunions. And so it's the bunions that are causing an issue on the side of my shoe. And so now, and I love the shoes that I have right now. I'm in Nike Zagama 2s, which I absolutely love. They're incredible technical trail shoe. However, they're not very wide. And I have learned, Dave, in the last few weeks that when you type in wide, that means this wide toe box, but not every wide toe box is gracefully led to holding some space for those wonderful pesky bunions.
I'm so glad I don't have the bunions. I'd probably be out on the running just watching what you had done. So, on the gear list for me, the very top thing, can you imagine what it is? It's a bicycle. What kind of bicycle is it?
Oh, yeah. Well, I was kind of imagining that if you got a tri-bike,
a tri-bike? You are like a mind reader. So in the evenings now...
Or do I just call it a TT,
Yeah, you can call it a TT. So in the evenings now, I'm reading Iron Fit. And Iron Fit is like the Bible for triathletes.
It is.
Why am I doing this? Because I have signed up for my first Ironman in 2025, right?
That's rad.
So that is me finding my next gear. And I'm glad I signed up early and picked up that book early, because apparently the training plan is over 30 weeks. And I started to backward engineer. I'm like, I'm like, right
starting
on time.
Tomorrow.
Like I'm right on time for this, for a change, because usually like it's going to be July 27th. Usually I'd start on like July 4th to get ready by drinking a couple of beers.
That's not true. That's not true.
So finding your next gear,
awesome.
let's talk about how to get more done in the last 60 days of the year than you got done in the entire year.
Yeah,
So
let's really do.
That's the way I sort of imagine this to go.
Let's really do. Before I do that, I do have to just give a quick shout out to a couple of people that have shouted out on us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, wherever you guys are. I have some notes that I want to throw in. Now, my assistant Jessie helps me put these together. So sometimes she sees things before I do, which is probably good. But I have a couple that I wanna share. One is I created a post called "Ignoring All Communication Issues in Your Relationship," and it was a cartoon kind of post. So it literally showed this dog sitting with a cup of coffee, and then the other picture next to it, because you're listening to this, you're trying to imagine it. So it's this dog sitting with a cup of coffee, and there's like fire embers around him. And then the next picture is this dog in his head. He says, "This is fine." And he has his cup of coffee looking over at his partner. And the concept of this was ignoring all the communication issues in your relationship and hoping it gets better. And isn't that true? And Business with Roet says, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we totally agree with that. The other post we did is Dave and I had a post about us together, and we were talking about challenges are just opportunities. Stop overthinking and start executing. Your resilience will take you there. Let's go. And Justin and Jess said, our biggest challenge is just understanding and accepting that entrepreneurship is a long game and that you have to show up consistently when you feel down. Man, I really thank you for saying that, Justin and Jess, because not many entrepreneurs are actually that honest and say that. Nobody shares that. It's like we're all entrepreneurs, but we don't actually type that in the DMs, or the comments, right?
But I'm going to jump in there. I love that. But who is it? Justin and Jess?
Justin and Jess.
Justin and Jess probably know the long game is made up of a lot of very, very short games. That's our topic today,
yes.
right?
Yes.
This is the short game.
And then Running My Recovery says, I'm not doing anything like that, but I relate to needing to take action in my life and not holding back because of overthinking. True. And Digital Marketing Trend says, absolutely wonderful. Putts and penalties. Life starts beyond the comfort zone. You guys are amazing. I saw you guys go live maybe last week or something. It was pretty funny. You're at a golf course, so that's your thing. Natty_creator says, totally relate to this. So those were a couple shout outs I wanted to give. And I know we have a little bit of a shorter episode today, so I want to dive in. Dave, what do you got?
Well, finding your next gear, this is like super relevant to where we're at because we're making a huge shift in our business direction. And we sat down yesterday, no wonder this topic came up, and we had a long planning session about how we are going to find our next gear. And we're doing that for a lot of reasons, but the primary one is we've been stuck in a trade time for money business model for most of our business career. And while it serves you in the short term, it doesn't serve you in the long term. And so we're starting to shift our mindset, and we're determined that we're going to make this happen before January 1st. So that's sort of the fuel for the flame here as we move forward.
So, as I think about the lessons that we have to jump into, I chose 3 to really dive into that are relatable, that I thought about our stories that I'm going to share, and then some takeaways for y'all that you can be thinking about of how to get yourself through the holiday hustle coming up, because it is true. This time of year, you feel like finally you're on traction. You can, kind of accomplish the goals you've set forth, or maybe you're just starting a big transition. And then all of a sudden I'm getting a phone call, ring-a-ling, and my sister's saying, what's the Thanksgiving plan? And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. We haven't even hit Halloween. And, you've got all the supermarkets bombarding you with, everything that's holiday, and it just kind of comes into your face.
Pumpkin spice latte.
Yeah,
oh, I hate
pumpkin
you.
spice latte, and everyone right now has pumpkins out on their patios. So, but anyway, lesson number 1, and we are applying this to our life right now, is tapping into your resilience. And I think that it's how endurance athletes say, when you think you're done, you're only 40% there. And I've had so many days when I felt like we were out on the trail and I hit the wall, whether it was a training day, whether it was a race day, and it was during a tough run or one of our bigger projects. But each time I reminded myself that I had more in the tank because I kept going and I pushed a little harder, even though I wanted to call Dave on that last race and say, I want to quit. I do want to quit. But I think that's
Fortunately, the cell reception
the
was
cell
bad,
reception
so
didn't
the phone
work,
never
so
rang.
I could never make the phone call, so I just kept pushing myself through. But I think that's the magic that happens, is when you can push yourself through, and I think that's where we're at today, where Dave and I are really focusing on switching gears and putting our own business Moab 240 into place, really crushing it here. And it takes resilience to do that. And there's a lot of things that we have to set aside, just like we did when we were training and racing this year.
And a lot of these seasonal distractions, right, they start making you think about next year. But this is really the time to claw back those thoughts and really think about what you said you were going to do this year, right? And the goals you were going to accomplish. And like, we reviewed them and we're just not there. We haven't made it happen. And I just remember, sort of the best way to predict the future, because everybody wants to know what's going to happen in the future, is to crush it at the end of 2024 here. In Q4, crush it in Q4, and that will actually predict how 2025 goes for you. And I don't care if it's your relationship, I don't care if it's your business, I don't care if it's, health. You need to put it in gear. Not start thinking about New Year's resolutions, but start enacting and taking action on this year's resolutions, right? And next year will come, don't worry. It's already put on the calendar, but right now is the time to do the work.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, when you're feeling like you're running on empty, which you very well could be by this season, this is the time to set mini goals. And sometimes the big goals feel so overwhelming that you're not going to do them. But if you can start a mini goal, that can help you keep moving forward in small increments. When Dave and I sat down to restructure and reset yesterday, we really talked about the mini goals that we were going to hit every single week for the next 8 weeks or 10 weeks left of the season. So even if it's just getting through the next hour and you can't even think week to week, that's okay. You have to start somewhere. And you've got this. Also, you need some encouragement and belief in yourself. There's more inside you than you think. And I think that's the takeaway here when we're talking about building inner resilience. There is more in you than you think. And whoever crushed your confidence, shame on them, because you are who you are and you can become more powerful than you ever thought possible by just stepping up to the plate today and taking some action on the goal. That's what gives you the confidence, because you did it today. That's what gives you confidence. So I have to share that. I'm excited about this next season for us.
Yeah, for sure. And sometimes, people are like, finding your next gear, or is it finding a new gear, right? And sometimes those things are like the same version, right, of life itself. Maybe you're in a gear that's just not serving you. And for us, sometimes that's true, right? And you continue to grind in a gear when you could just find a new gear and push it that way. And is it okay if I tell a quick story?
Oh yeah, go for it.
So it just reminds me, this is like way back right after the dinosaurs were extinct, right? And I was in another business, I was in another life, I was in a whole nother place. And I was in a business that was dying because the internet had just arrived. That's how old this story is. And what happened was I lost belief in the company I was working for. I lost traction in being able to sell the product because it became widely available, where it used to be like I had to go to the business to sell it. Now they could just dial it up and have it delivered. And I went through a time when I went broke, right? Like literally no house, living in someone else's basement. It was the holidays. It was like this time of year when I arrived there. And I said, I need to find my next gear. I need to find my new gear is actually what I needed to find. And I moved from selling this outdoor advertising product to starting to envision, like, what would it be like if I offered some sort of service online? And I landed on SEO. And I quickly dug into it. I focused on it for 60 days. Where focus goes, your energy flows, right? That old saying by Tony Robbins. And I reinvented myself in 60 days. Literally, I went from living in a basement of a friend's house to having I didn't even know it was called a digital marketing agency. I just had clients I was doing things for, and in 60 days was able to spin it up and completely recover. And I've been on that trajectory for the last 20 some odd years, right? Having a digital marketing agency selling SEO services and
You know,
all those other sorts of things. But the thing was, when I was alone in the basement, I could have let it crush me, right? I could have just said, woe is me. And I said, no, right? I'm going to literally sit down at this little tiny, it was like school desk with an actual laptop computer. It was the old Sony ones. I don't think they make them anymore. And I figured out SEO and how to get someone's website at the top of the search rankings. And that was money, right? And so I know we've all done this a few times in our lives, but for me, it feels to me right now like it's time for us to do that again, even though we're not in the basement. It's time for us to find our next and newest gear.
I remember before I moved to Hawaii, if you don't know my story of living at my mom's house, incredibly depressed, I left a very abusive relationship and was living in a old bedroom upstairs. And I say old bedroom, this place was like a dungeon up there. For me, it just felt so depressing, and I needed to switch my gear. And it was about this time that I was in a pretty heavy depression, and I had a dream, Dave, to move to Hawaii, to one day live in Hawaii, and that seemed impossible for me, and how I would ever do that. And I literally went with my gear shifted and continued to keep the inner resilience, and with a little help from the fam, I was able to go from living in my old bedroom at my mother's house, actually my old sister's bedroom, to living in a room with a lady friend of mine that I just met over in Hawaii, to building a life in Hawaii. That is a beautiful story, because, I mean, one day we will break that down on a podcast episode, because there's so many lessons there. But I think the point of it is you may be in a big transition yourself right now, and don't give up on that dream. Sometimes it hits you right in the stark, cold deepness of winter. And we're in that transition. You're seeing the leaves fall off the tree, and you're feeling the change in the weather, and you're pulling out your sweater bags, and you're swapping your clothes in your closet, which I did over the weekend. You're making the physical transition, and mentally and physically now with your actions, you need to go through the same thing. I think the point of it is don't give up. Don't give up on the thing. If you would have given up, you wouldn't have had that new business for yourself. If I would have given up, I would have never had the experience of living in Hawaii full time for 12 years, So yeah, it's time to dig in and not give up on your inner resilience.
You get those wake up calls, you get those hints that come. Back then, I think the day that Honda Finance called me and said, "Where's the car? We need it back," right? That was like, wow, this is really happening, right? And sometimes we're just a little bit anesthetized to what's going on, because the past has worked out so well that you've projected like this is the way it's going to be forever. But we all go through the seasons, right? And when you find your next gear, your new gear, we're talking about business. I'm talking about business, but it can be mental health. It can be your relationship. It can be your actual physical health. Right? There's a lot of things that we work on to find our next gear. And I don't know why it always seems to be this season, right, where the stories are more poignant, just because I think it is the season.
All right, lesson number 2. We want to talk about how important it is with the chaos of the season, and what we have learned is prioritize your energy recovery. It is a non-negotiable. I recently watched a YouTube short about an ultra runner who emphasized how rest is a crucial piece of training. And they said, without recovery, you can't sustain the pace. And you know what? That's exactly what we need to be thinking about right now. You've done your physical work, you've done possibly your race, and you need to apply, applies to all of us. We need to build in recovery, not as a reward, but as a requirement. And I think I've already started over this weekend. I was scheduling quick breaks, taking a 5-minute walk, a 10-minute walk, a 15-minute walk. I hit the grounding mat for a power nap. It makes a huge difference, even if it's 10 minutes of just checking out and resetting your brain, hitting a meditation, just taking time to breathe, using one of the breathing apps. It is time to also think about what you've done in the entire year because it may be, yes, you're switching gears and you need more inner resilience. At the same time, we've got to recover, and recovery is so important. So I do want to stress in the fact that give yourself permission to rest. And a lot of us don't. We wake up and hustle, 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 constantly. So give yourself permission to rest. Think of it as recharging your battery, not wasting time. Because whether it's taking a walk or a 10-minute nap, resting is a priority. And I think we have to think of it that when I wrote my notes down for this episode talking about finishing strong, I really thought about the things that help you finish strong is also rest and recovery.
And people don't think of rest as part of energy, right? But like energy in this time is key, And someone said, as humans, we don't have energy. We generate energy. But the fact is, you can't generate unlimited amounts of energy without that recharge, that reset, that nap, that sleep, those sorts of things. And that's true for all of us, right? You can't run Moab 240 every single day for the rest of your life and expect to make it.
Yeah, that's truly true. Lesson number 3, and the last one, is we wanted to share about how important it is to, and we've touched on a little bit, on how to realign your goals with what matters most. You are towards the end of the season, and last December, Dave and I got super clear on our priorities. We only committed to events and activities that matched our values. And this is the time where you feel bombarded with all the invites and you want to say yes, but it's like saying no becomes your superpower. And it really helped Dave and I avoid the burnout and truly focus on what matters most. When you have the, neighborhood invites, the family invites, the friend invites to do this and that, it can get very hectic. So, before the holiday madness, this is the time where boundaries really matter. And you just write down the top 3 priorities. If it's, family, physical, activity, rest, that's your top 3 priorities. That's it. Those 3 things have to be in alignment and done before you can take something else. I think that's so important to note the priorities. For us, we're talking about our training, our recovery, our business, on our time together. Dave and I, we're together, but our relationship sometimes takes a season setback where we have to rebuild our relationship because even though we're training together, sometimes our relationship doesn't get the nurtured like we really want it to. So if it doesn't align with you and your guidelines, your values, say no, and say no guilt-free. I think that's the most important, so that you can feel lighter and more in control. And when you can do that, it sets yourself up to switch gears to have a more successful holiday season.
For sure. And it's hard, right? Because other people don't understand what your direction is, right? Because they're maybe satisfied with where they're at. So you get all of these invites to parties and do things, and then you say no, and
they're a little shocked.
It's a family member. Sometimes they're a little shocked. Sometimes they'll pitch back some guilt. Don't pick that up, right? It's not your guilt, it's theirs. And you don't have to re-explain your answer a dozen times, right? Don't treat your family member like they're 6, unless they are 6. And go through the why. It's just
another great.
This does not work for me right now. Thank you very much for the invite.
Another great tip is, if you are going to get together with family, and sometimes family gatherings can be very difficult. One of the things is, and we all know that, is communication. And even though it's hard to communicate maybe with the person that's maybe hosting the party or whatever it is, push yourself to do it in a way that you're reverse engineering it. So if you say to yourself, I want to be home at this time on, Thanksgiving or Christmas, whatever the holiday date is, reverse engineer that for yourself and make it very clear to the party, everyone, that I need to be home by this time, or with my kids, or with this, I need to be out of this. I'm only giving myself this window to be with this family. I think setting those boundaries takes a massive pressure off you. If you just let it roll and you're like, oh yeah, I'll get there around, whatever the time is, and I'll leave around whatever the time is, you get home and you just feel exhausted, like you've given everything to everybody else. And if you were to prioritize the boundary for yourself and said, I'm leaving at 6 o'clock or, 7 o'clock, I'm leaving at this time because I need to come home and down cycle. I need to come home and chill out with my family before I go to bed. And I just need a cool off time, and we did it too. We had the conversation the other day, and it actually worked out, because at first I just wanted to hang up the phone and say, I'll get back to you. But instead I worked through the communication of it. We made a plan, and I was very clear about I need to leave at this time to have my time with Dave. That's the time I need to leave. So whenever you want to eat the food part, we're going to do it at this time, but I need to leave at this time. And that made me take the total pressure off.
And it's hard with family, but I listened to that conversation. You applied PCM. You got into your sister's channel, her communication.
Yep.
And things go much smoother when you speak to people in their channel. I know I may be like, what's he talking about?
Yeah.
So we're trained as process communication model coaches, and that just makes communication easier. So I do have a couple tactical takeaways
Share away,
before
Dave.
we wrap this up.
Yep.
And this applies to like everything in your life, whether it's business or relationship. And there's 4 pillars, right? And there's 4 pillars to finding your next gear or finding your new gear or anything else that you want to accomplish in life that is a big goal, right? And that's energy, mindset, planning, and action. And it's in that order specifically every single time, right? And energy is all about creating your peak state. You need to be energetically like focused on that direction. Mindset, for me, I have this thought process that is always, if it is to be, it's up to me. And so that's my mindset, and I will overcome whatever it is, no matter what, because I'm going to make it happen. The third is planning, and nobody ever won a training race, or nobody ever won a race without planning, right? Maybe someone did, but for the most of us, we need to schedule and plan what we're going to do. And then the last is action. Absolutely always execute on the plan. And the thing I think that's really important about executing on the plan is checking off the actions, right? Checking off doing what you said you would do and not checking off the wins or the losses and trying to compare them, because you're going to have an overwhelming number of losses compared to wins always. That's life. So just check off the action, and you will find as you go into 2025 that whatever your next or newest gear is that you wanted to have happen, boom, it will magically appear because you did the work to make it appear.
Yeah, well, great reminders. I think that's really kind of wraps up the takeaways from this episode when we're talking about digging deeper. You've got more in the tank than you think. Following David's 4 pillars of, say them again for everyone.
Energy, mindset, planning, and action.
Taking recovery is not optional. Schedule rest to renew your energy, and set clear priorities and say no to what doesn't align. You're not obligated to say yes to anybody. Stay true to yourself. I think as we head into the holidays, remember that resilience is built in the final stretch, and we're in the final stretch, and it all starts in the mind. So you have to keep believing in yourself and celebrate even the smallest victories and focusing on what truly matters. I mean, prioritizing the rest, recovering, knowing it's part of your body's own growth, your life growth. This season isn't just about getting by. This season is about rising higher and expanding into the powerful soul of who you are. And I wrote that down because it's who you are meant to be, and we believe in you. And I want to encourage you to submit your questions about us as we're wrapping this up. Submit your questions about wrapping up the year, sharing with us what you're looking forward to, sharing us on any of the social platforms or our YouTube podcast channel or Spotify, or not Spotify, Apple Podcast. Share with us. We would love to hear about that. And also any upcoming episodes that are coming in that is going to help navigate for your holiday dynamics. We have some really cool stuff talking about ending the year strong, redirecting, resetting, and visiting Life's Manifesto. We're going to share our Life Manifesto with you, and we're going to talk into tapping into self-care and couples care, including Speak to Connect, our program, which you can find on our website, wendyj.com/speak to connect. What that's all about when David mentioned PCM. I think that's important. So anything else before I wrap it up, Dave?
No, I love the Life Manifesto. I am turning our and my Life Manifesto into a song using AI. And if you're interested in that, how can I do that? Reach out to me, because there is a lot of power and emotion in that sound going into your head. And when it's musical, I think it seeds itself deeper into your brain.
Yeah, it does. It helps you believe in yourself and gives you more confidence.
Although it may be sort of a goofy song, people are like, is he singing about money and love and like wellness and winning a triathlon? I'm not going to win, by the way, but I am going to finish.
Well, we have to say mahalo for joining us today. The holiday season doesn't have to slow you down. It can actually be your chance to rise higher. So keep showing up, celebrate your progress, and make room for what truly matters most, which is you. I mean, if this episode resonated with you, please rate us on Spotify. We would love that. Leave a heartfelt review on Apple Podcasts and follow us along for more episodes focused on thriving. We want to crush it out there. You can always visit wendyj.com, my website, for updates and to truly stay inspired as I'm adding new things all the time to that website. So many things I've got to share. And know that you've got this. End of the day, let's cross the finish line together into the year, you know? Let's cross it more stronger than ever before and keep chasing after our dreams and never, ever giving up. You've got this. We believe in you. We're here with you 100%.
All right.
We like to say, have an amazing day. Aloha.
Aloha.